In this video, I'll show you where to throw and how to retrieve lipless crankbaits when it's hot out. We're into late August and the water temps are high, which doesn't usually result in the lipless crankbait coming out of the tackle box. Most people think lipless are just for fall and spring when bass are chasing the bait, but I've learned you can squeeze extra bites out of them in the heat if you put them in the right spots and change your retrieve a little. Before the fall comes, when the water cools down and the lipless bite really turns on, I've had success using these when you have areas like this shallow flat that are full of grass patches where throwing trebles sounds like a terrible idea. Well, it is a terrible idea normally, but if you put a lipless on 15-pound line, use a more stiff rod, you can toss these along the weed edges and even into the more sparse patches of grass and rip it right through it with a sharp snap of your rod. And sometimes the way the bass react to that is just crazy. And for this technique, I'm using braid to a mono leader to make sure I clear that grass. If it's thick enough, though, you could probably use straight braid. And if you do that, I'd beef up your hooks to prevent bending them out. A little bit of a warning though, this technique can wear you out pretty quick, but when it works, it's one of the most fun bites you'll get in the summer. It's violent, and usually the bass will hit it right after you rip it free. If you have lanes between the grassy areas and all the patches, I'll fire a light one like this Spro Aruku shad and burn it just under the surface in the lanes. I've had days where it was like the bass just caught the thing as it landed and had one on immediately. But for my retrieve, every few feet I stop reeling and let it sink down before I do it again. The pause is key. You'd be surprised how many strikes happen as soon as it drops after the burn. My favorite way to target and catch bass with a lipless when it's hot, though, is when I have an area like this island top, or it could be a shallow flat which has a drop off into deeper water. Oftentimes, I'll be fishing and catching bass up in the shallow part in the morning with a frog or a spinnerbait, and by late morning, when the sun is higher and a lot of these fish have moved down into the deeper water, I'll make long casts to the drop off and let it sink to the bottom and do a slow yo yo retrieve. I had a day where the last thing we did was be on the way outside edge of the drop off of an island, and we were on a drift, and I was just launching this Jackal TN70 as far as I could towards it. And within a couple of yo yos, I had a fish on, and it happened for several casts. It was one of the better ends to a trip that I can remember. Now, if on your first lift in the yo yo retrieve and you're just coming up like this, and it feels like you're lifting up a wet towel or a wad of grass, then chances are a fish already ate it on the fall, and that's just something you have to be prepared for when doing this retrieve. Now, if your pond's bottom is full of grass, you can still let it hit the bottom. You just have to like snap it up to clear the grass before you start your yo yo retrieve. And to wrap it up, I'm not saying that lipless crankbaits are a magic summer bait, but if you're in a pond with grass or you've got shallow flats with a defined drop off, you can get bites that some people overlook. And when everybody else is throwing worms, sometimes giving bass that faster moving lipless look is all it takes. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.